Hey folks, I am Troy and you're watching TroyTube. Today I'm going to ask you to help me test some software. This is going to be basically a huge beta test. I don't know if this is going to work for everyone, anyone at all, or maybe everyone and it'll work beautifully. I don't know. Currently, I'm the only one that's done this and tested it, and it seems to work great for me. So we'll see what happens on a little bit larger scale when, a few hundred or maybe a few thousand of you try to use this method, and we'll see what happens and see what kind of feedback we get. Now again, this is a test. This is an entirely free feature on our website. There are no guarantees here. It may flop. I may remove it tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but I think it's going to work out really well and it's going to help a lot of people. So we'll get started here. Let's talk about what we're going to do. Now we're going to talk a little bit about printer maintenance. Actually, just one thing with printer maintenance, and that is if you don't use your printer a lot, it will dry up and clog the print heads. A lot of crafters and a lot of people in general, sometimes you may not print to your printer for 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 2 or 3 months. And then when you do, you try to print, it's either not printing at all or it's missing certain colors or maybe has lines in it. And you come to realize that you haven't printed for a while. Your heads are probably dried up, the ink is dried, you have to run nozzle checks, head cleanings, sometimes power cleanings, which can be hard on a printer if you do it too many times and uses a ton of ink to do that. Sometimes it's necessary though, you have to do that. So we're going to talk about how we can maybe keep that from happening for a very minimal cost. Now this cost has nothing to do with me. I'm providing something entirely free on our website. There is no commitment here. I'm just asking people to test this with me and see how it works for them. So my theory is that if you print something once a week, your printer's probably going to continue to work fine. Some of the commercial printers, most of the sublimation printers, when those commercial printers, they have a feature in them that keeps the ink from drying up. So for example, a sawgrass printer, if you don't print to a sawgrass printer for 2 months, as long as it's been plugged in and turned on, it will run a cycle that keeps the ink from drying up, and more than likely when you print to it the first time, it's going to print just fine even though you haven't used it for 60 days. Epson printers, other inkjet printers do not do that. These are consumer grade printers. So if you don't print to them, they will dry up and give you those kind of headaches that I just mentioned. So I come to realize that the key to it was to actually just print something periodically and make sure the ink continues to flow. It doesn't have time to dry up, and we're going to see how this works. I've been using it for a while. It seems to be working great for me. Hopefully it'll work great for everyone else, but we'll see what happens here. If it doesn't work, or if it becomes a real problem, then we may just scrap the whole idea. But I think I've got something pretty nice here that it's a great free feature for you guys that you can come to our site, set this up, and use it yourself. So let's talk about paper first of all. So when you're not using your sublimation paper, your sublimation printer, I recommend keeping just regular copy paper in it. And the reason is because we're going to send a test print to your printer periodically based on a schedule. And so if you're not using your printer, just keep the copy paper in it and make sure on the printer when you load it, you select and tell it that it's using plain paper, letter size, and that way the print jobs will happen automatically without any intervention. Now, typically our paper, most sublimation paper comes in a box, so make sure you keep it in that box when you're not actively using it. If somebody asked today about how, if sublimation paper had a shelf life, but basically you want to keep it, in a cool, dry place, not too warm, not too cold. Humidity, 40-50% or whatever, not extreme humidity, that anything like that. And you keep it in a box to protect it from UV exposure. So any kind of UV exposure to any kind of paper is kind of hard on it. Over time, it'll turn yellow. So you want to make sure you take care of your paper anyway, and you shouldn't have that out. So just keep your copy paper loaded in your printer. And leave it on. And that's all you have to do once this is completely set up. Now, what's going to happen is, based on a schedule, your printer is going to automatically print a test page. And the test page looks like this. It has a small pattern of straight lines and angled lines with the CMYK colors. At the top of it, it says printer test page sent from TroyTube.net. Visit your account on our website to change your settings. That is just a reminder. So when this comes out, if you ever want to stop, it's a reminder to tell you to go back to our website to change those settings or turn it off or reconfigure it however you want to do it. So basically, my theory is if you print that page once a week, that it's going to probably keep your printer in good working order. Over the course of a year, that's 52 sheets of paper. Paper is what, a penny a sheet, penny and a half, something like that. The amount of ink that it uses, as you saw, is very, very minute. So you're really talking about, what, $1.50 for a year to try to in supplies. That doesn't go to me. That cost doesn't come to me. But in supplies, a sheet of paper a week, or and just a tiny bit of ink throughout the year. And we're going to see how this goes. Even if you have to do it twice a week, you're talking about $2 or $3 a year to eliminate those frustrations for you, possibly. I hope this works. So we'll switch over to the computer here and get started. I'll show you how to set this up. Many of you probably already have your printer set up on Epson Connect, or maybe you did it as part of the process and you just don't even realize it too. But if that's the case, if it's already set up, then you've already done one part. But I'm going to show you on the screen basically the settings that you're going to want to set in EpsonConnect.com as well as in your TroyTube.net account. You set it up and forget it. One important thing is make sure that you can send an email to your printer and print it before you set this up. If that doesn't work, the process I have isn't going to work at all. So basically, I have a program set up that on a scheduled basis, based on how you choose to print it, is going to send that test page to your printer by email. Your printer has an email address once you set it up on Epson Connect. And so based on that schedule, it's going to send this. Basically, it's a PDF file that I created to your printer. It's going to spit out that one page, and it's going to let you know that your printer's working okay. Each time it prints out, take a look at it, make sure it looks okay. If it looks okay, you can throw it away. If not, you may want to increase that frequency to twice a week, and I'll explain all that in the setup instructions in the next part of this video. So let's switch over to the computer and we'll get started here. All right, to get started, there's two things you're going to want to do, two different websites. One is your TroyTube.net account. You want to be logged into it. And you'll also want to have an account set up on Epson Connect. Go to EpsonConnect.com and do a setup for your account. And this is assuming that you've already set up the basic parts of your printer. You've put your ink in, you've done your nozzle check and alignments, and have connected your printer to your Wi-Fi network, and you are able to print to it. And just a reminder, you should download the drivers from Epson. Go to their website, go to their, or you can just Google Epson in your model number and drivers, like Epson ET-15000 drivers, and it should bring you right to that page. You're going to want to install the actual Epson software and the full software package with it. You can bypass the fax setup if you're not going to use it, but you are going to want that software installed. And during that process, it may ask if you want to set your printer up on Epson Connect. If it does not, once it's installed, you can go to your search button and just type in Epson, and it should come up with a list of things that are installed on your computer, and one of them is Epson Connect Printer Setup. And you're going to want to do that and make sure your printer is set up and connected okay to your Epson Connect account before you can go to the next part. So I'll go ahead and log into my Epson Connect account, and you see I have 5 printers registered here, and I actually have another one that I'm going to be adding. And this one happens to be offline, and we had a power outage a couple days ago, so that printer's still turned off. I haven't used it, but I'll turn that on and get that corrected when I get home. And you see the different model printers here, and of course I've hidden my email addresses. I don't need you guys emailing me things to print, but so then you can click on one of these models and go into the settings, and there's a couple of different things you're going to want to set in here. Over on the left, you have printer email address, and you will have a kind of a cryptic email address Epson will give you. That is perfectly okay to use. It's pretty secure. It's very complicated email address. If you want to give it a more common name, you can put that here, but I would suggest at least using some kind of numbers or something to disguise it so that no one can guess what it is. So don't put Bob's printer or anything like that, but you'll want to get that email address or assign your own email address so that you know what it is and click apply. If you'd like, you can add a printer description. So if you have several like I do, you might want to put a description in there. And then on the email notifications, you can turn these on or off if you'd like. I'd like to leave the error on. That way it lets me know if I've forgotten to put paper in it or something like that, and it's unable to print. So I do leave that one checked, but I turn off the other ones. And then under the email print section, there is a place where you can suspend or enable the service. And then you probably should set up an approved senders list. And you can say use approved senders list. It is recommended. That way you can restrict who can send an email to your printer to print something. If you use this feature, you are going to want to add no reply at TroyTube.org. It is no-reply at TroyTube.org. That is the address the email will come from. Next, go to printer settings and make sure it's set to letter, paper size, and everything else can be unchecked. If you leave these checked, it will print like the body of the email and the header of the email, but we do not need that. We just want the test page it's going to email. And then, of course, there's a print log where you can see print jobs that have been sent to your printer this way. Now that we have our email address, you're going to want to copy that, or if you know what it is, you'll be able to type that in. But you're going to go over to your TroyTube.net account, and then up here under your account, I highly recommend doing this on a computer rather than a mobile app. I will put the screenshots at the end of this video so you can do it on the mobile app if you'd like. It's just a little bit easier on the website, and it's a little bit easier to support as well. But go to your click on your account up here, you go to Profile, and then go down to Edit. And when you're editing your profile, you should see a tab here called Schedule Printer Test Page. So click on that. And there are several things you're going to want to set in here. One is you're going to want to enable the feature. So put a check in that box. Next, you put your printer email address in there. Now, of course, this is not my real printer email address, so don't bother trying to send something to it. But you want to put that in there. And if you have more than one Epson printer you want to test with, sometimes people have more than one sublimation printer, or maybe they have a regular inkjet printer and a sublimation printer. But you can put more than one in here, and you can do that by just simply adding the email addresses and separating them by commas. So if I had maybe a second printer, I could do that, and it would send the test page to both printers simultaneously. The next section is the days you want it to run. Right now, I would recommend setting it to 1 day a week. If you choose to do it 2 days a week, you can do it every day if you want, but I don't recommend that. Let's start with 1 day and see if that takes care of the issue for most folks. If you set it for 2 days, I would put 2 or 3 days in between them. So if you do that, you'll have 2 days between one test and 3 days between the next test. And so I wouldn't do any more than 2 days on this if I were you. And then the time of the day that you want to run the test. So if I set this to 12 p.m. at noon on Tuesday and Saturday, this test would run. I'm only going to do 1 day. So the way I have it set now is it is enabled. It would send the email to this email address, which is my printer. On the days to run, it will run on Tuesdays, and it will run at noon. And I'm going to leave regular copy paper in my printer all the time unless I'm doing sublimation. Regular plain paper, letter size paper, and make sure when you insert that paper that you confirm on the front of the printer that you have loaded plain paper and not anything else, because you typically use presentation matte paper or something for sublimation paper. But make sure it is set correctly so that it will print nice and smoothly for you, and save that. If you want to test it, you could set it for whatever day it is. So if today is Thursday, I would set for Thursday, and if it's 2:45 p.m. I could set it for 3 p.m. and at 3 p.m. I could see if it's going to work or not. But you should have already tested that by sending an email to your printer from your regular email address. I would recommend doing that first. If you cannot send an email to your printer and get something to print, then this is not going to work. If you contact me and say that this isn't working for you, it's not printing, you don't receive anything, you need to check your email address, check that it's enabled, the dates and times, and you also need to send an email from your email address with a PDF file or a Word document or something like that to this address and see if it prints or not. If it does not print, you will have to resolve that with your Epson Connect account before this will work. So we will save that. And now I'll show you the screenshots for setting it on the mobile app. To do this on the mobile app, on the bottom right, click the More button, and then touch your name near the top. And then click on the profile at the top of the list. And then touch the Edit button at the top right. And then touch the Edit link at the top of this list. And at the top of the screen, you'll see a Schedule Printer Test. So touch that, and then you'll be able to change the same settings that we just set on the website. So there you have it. If you follow those instructions correctly, you should be able to schedule your print job and have that come out. Now, one important thing that I mentioned in the video, the time of the day is based on Eastern U.S. time. So if you're in a different time zone from Eastern U.S., we're in South Florida, Eastern U.S. time, you're going to have to offset that for the time that you want. So if you want to set it for noon, and you're in California, you need to choose 3 p.m. If you're in Central Time, you're 1 hour off, and you want it for noon, you want to set it for 1 p.m. Okay, so check your time based on the time zone and make sure you have it set correctly, and that you've done that. If it's not working, make sure you can send an email to it yourself from your own email address. You just email a PDF file or a Word document or something like that to the same email address of your printer. And if that doesn't print, I can't help you. You have to fix that first with Epson Connect and your email address and everything before my software is going to be able to help you. So please, if you can't do that, I can't help you. Please do not bombard me with email requests to help with that piece of it, because that's something you're going to have to do yourself. You may, if you have problems with it, you may have to talk to Epson support or something, but for the most part, all of that is really easy to set up and do. You just walk through it and put those things in. So once you do this, schedule it. You could, if you have your time calculated right and everything for your time zone offsets or anything like that, you can set it for the next hour on the day that it is. So if it's Thursday at 2:45 p.m. and I want to set this up and test it pretty quickly, I could set the schedule for Thursday at 3 p.m. and save it, and then at 3 p.m. it should run and give me that test page. So that's the quickest way to test it. Then I would also recommend setting it for the least likely time you're going to be using your printer. So if you're least likely to be using your printer at 8 o'clock on a Friday night, then that's the time you want to set it up for it again, and make sure you have that copy paper in your printer. And let's see how this goes. This will be interesting. It's going to take a few weeks before I get feedback to find out if people are actually getting results from it or not. But we'll see how this goes. And if it works great, maybe we'll add more features. I don't know. It depends on what you guys you want or need, and we'll see how that goes. We'll see how this whole test goes. Like I said, this is a free service. It's an idea I came up with, added it to our website, had it custom developed and programmed to put in there, and we'll see how this goes for us all. And please set it up. Give me some feedback after a few weeks in the comments below, and let me know how it goes.